Hello, welcome to another Talking Beyond Trauma program. My name is Mordecai Dixon. Today we're going to take a look at some difficult information and have some difficult conversations. We live in one of the most developed nations in the world and are surrounded by resources. The sad reality, though, is not everybody benefits from the resources in their country, in their communities. This not only impacts their wellness, but their ability to experience health and wellness. Today we ask the question, with all these resources at our fingertips, what gets in the way of certain groups trying to reap the benefit of the stream of plenty? We discuss the issue of health disparities, their origin in our nation's history, the difficulty of certain ethnic and racial groups overcoming system-based marginalization, the ongoing challenge of these same groups to be recognized, valued, and afforded opportunity to pursue wellness freely and without impediment. Today we are speaking with Dr. Tanisha Freeman Foster. Dr. Foster is an authority on health equity, organizational leadership, and leadership development. We are glad to hear perspectives on how to have difficult conversations, how to build effective organizational structures that promote wellness, and to address systemic problems that, to this day, exist in our society.
This season of Talking Beyond Trauma is intended for mature audiences. References made to policies and practices within the United States impacting African enslavement, racialized medicine, and assimilation of Native American and Indigenous cultures is explored in the session dialogue. The program addresses the impact of systemic racism on the physical and mental health and wellness of Americans identifying as Black, Indigenous, or other persons of color. The content is presented to examine historic U.S. initiatives that influenced, designed, and maintained oppressive systems impacting access to service, disproportionate service efficiency, and generational mental and physical health challenges. While we acknowledge the need to explore these issues with courage, we remain committed to culturally sensitive, equitable, recovery-focused programming. We aspire to minimize stress reactions and the re-traumatization of our listeners. Please review the session descriptions and make informed decisions prior to exploring content. Resources are available if you wish to explore the content in greater detail. Thanks for your support of Talking Beyond Trauma. We hope this discussion fuels your practice and promotes healing in your journey.
Welcome, everybody. Glad to have Dr. Tanisha Freeman Foster back today. We are going to explore some incredible work that's being done in the space of mental health. And you gave us some great insight and some great tips. It was just a great conversation to have, and I'm looking forward to moving forward in it, because in this one, I get to indulge myself with somebody who just maybe put pen to paper and wrote a book. And, I'm not here to sell it for you, but at the same time, wow, workplace challenges. How does this creep into our workplaces? And how does that same historical trauma and those same viewpoints, when they're not addressed, how they impact our ability to be effective even at work? Here's the activity of the morning for us. If you had to craft the leader in your head, what does that leader look like? Because there's a lot of folks who would say, I thought that was me, and I'm not so sure after listening to you. Maybe I'm missing something. So what is it that some of the key characteristics of the leaders of tomorrow, what must they be willing to do?
Wow, that's a deep question. I love it though. And there's several things as I'm thinking of them. So one is that you have to be willing to not be the smartest person in the room all the time. And that requires us to disrupt the narrative on what a leader should be and supposed to look like and supposed to say. A leader, you can lead from the front, you can lead from the side, you can lead from the middle, you can lead from the back. And so I think we have to get out of that mentality that you always have to be up front, that you have to be seen, that you have to take credit for this work. Sometimes being a leader means moving out the way, that you are not the best subject expert or even lived experience person on this particular topic or on this particular situation that is happening in the community. And if you can't help, don't hinder, move out the way. And so I think it's knowing when you need to move out the way. And even when you don't know, giving people permission to say, you need to move out the way, and you're not getting in your feelings. Your feelings may be hurt, but don't retaliate. Give them the resources they need to thrive, because sometimes you are not the answer, that there are other people who can help this family better or can help this community. And I think that's the other thing. It has to be human-centered, heart-to-heart, community-centered. If you really want the best for this community, then you have to do the work to make that happen. And sometimes it's helping them get funding. Sometimes it's going before the board or before Congress, or you lobbying, whatever it is, to help support the efforts that are going on. And you may not be the front person. The next thing is doing your own work. And I think so many things are happening politically. And I feel like it is an effort to keep us from feeling. And no one wants to be uncomfortable. No one wants to feel discomfort or feel embarrassed or shame. And it's like, get over it. Get over it. Like, you need to feel, we need to feel. That is a part of being a human, that we're able to feel for another person. And so when you strip that away, I can no longer understand what you're feeling. That gives me permission to devalue you. It gives me permission to destroy you, whether I mean to or not, because I can't feel. Like, I don't feel what you're going through. I've othered you. I've devalued you. And it all starts with being desensitized. And so, and I am hopeful that all of us have the ability to feel each other. I live in a place where I see people take great care of their dogs, no point intended to the dog owners, but people go above and beyond. Dog massages, dressing the dogs up. I've seen people having ice cream with their dog, and they feel, you can feel from an animal. I've seen people that feel from plants, and like, oh, a leaf fell, that plant is crying. If you have that capacity, then you have the capacity to feel for another human being. And so I would encourage us to not move away from the things that cause us discomfort, to not move away from those uncomfortable conversations, because in doing so, you perpetuate division, you perpetuate devaluing, and you will help contribute to the destruction of individuals and communities when you no longer can feel or understand or connect with them, that connection is important. And so I would say that as well. I would also say, looking at the outcomes, how is your organization impacting the individuals they say they were going to serve? Outside of numbers served, I've seen all kind of fancy charts with numbers served. And I've seen very little that says, because of our support with this individual, they got their driver's license, they moved into their first apartment, they were able to manage their diabetes well, they were able to find a primary care doctor. Where are the results? Where are the receipts from the results? I could care less how many people you serve. Yes, that's important, but what are you doing in their lives? How has the quality of their lives been impacted because you entered? And how do they feel? Do they feel listened to? Do they feel celebrated? Do they feel that they are being heard? And what part of their treatment plan or what part of their lives are they having an influence in? If I go to someone's home and they're doing well, but everything that they're doing came from their worker, that's concerning, because it's without you, things fall apart. And so how are we helping people to lean into that? Because otherwise we go back to that drapetomania, like, no, you can't help yourself, because that's what that does. When you tell somebody you're being abused, and if you run, you are pathological in some way. And so we do that in communities when we come in and say, no, I know you've been fixing spaghetti like this. I know you've been living like this, but I got a better way. And so now people start to second guess, maybe I don't have the power to help myself. Maybe I'm unable to be well on my own, and these things that I was doing, maybe they're not helpful. And so we destabilize communities by doing that. And so I would say being a listening learner, and listening in learning more than you're teaching and giving advice to other people, because again, you're not an expert in their lives.
Thank you so much for that insight. Boy, oh boy, that's one to grow on right there. I think that that's a tall order for some folks, even the people that mean well. They're under the assumption that they're kind of up against a tide. In a lot of ways, they are. Post COVID, you already know my values on the COVID piece. But post pandemic, I think folks are really starting to look at that first community I have to spend time with are the people that work with me and for me. It's a great place to begin that journey of vulnerability, frankly. But what we have is the polar opposite. We're seeing that even the workplace is starting to look and sound and feel for some people the same way the community does for some of the folks that they serve. Not heard, not seen, not valued, oppressed. Words that really shouldn't come out of any workplace culture, no matter where it is on earth, in my opinion, but definitely not out of the mouths of teachers, school counselors, our first responding teams, doctors and lawyers. I mean, I've received so many requests for help in these different areas. And I think what's common is that my team doesn't feel valued.
Yes.
And this idea of valuing me really gets to the regard you and I have talked about on back. And it's like this idea that you hold me in esteem and you don't need to fully understand me. I'll help you understand me, but you have to be willing to be creating or leading a value added and a value respecting organization. Or folks are going to take the high road, and they are.
Yeah.
There are people who are just saying, absolutely not. I will not do this with you any longer. What is going on in these workplaces? Why are people walking out?
There are various things that leaders have to look at, even from the artifacts. And so we talk about people not being able to find certain groups of people to work there, or find certain groups of clients don't want to come in. What is the message that you're communicating? And so I've seen a lot of fancy commercials. Outside of these fancy commercials, can I see myself thriving at your organization? Because I've gone to websites and I've seen organizations and I've looked at their website. I don't see anyone who looks like me. Wow. I've looked at their board. I don't see anyone who looks like me. I look at their programs, and the people who look like me, they're in the housing challenge program. They're in the juvenile justice or criminal justice program. Yeah. I don't want to be a part of that. And so it's that thing of like, do I see myself there first? And do I see myself through a lens of thriving? Because that tells me, whether it's true or not, that paints a story of what I can expect if I decide to receive services from there. And so that's important to every single aspect, the posters, the brochures. If I'm coming to your organization for mental health, are there brochures that are related to Black mental health? Are there brochures with people who look like me? Not because of separation, but because I need to see myself thriving in my shoes. And that's great that other people are thriving and they're smiling and happy on the brochure. But do I see people who look like me thriving? And if we dig deeper, do I see people who look like me thriving in a topic that is still very taboo in my community? So now I'm already coming in against the grain of what is deemed as something that my community does. At least when I arrive, tell me that I made the right decision through your wall art, through the secretary at the front desk, through the brochures in the waiting room. How do I know that this is a good decision? How do I know that my experience is going to be good even before someone opens their mouth and says anything? How does your organization position for my thriving?
That's amazing. If you could get folks to just buy into that one, I think we could make so many changes. I think the opposite exists. And it sometimes gets so neutralized and watered down that it almost seems like you're advocating for and people are asking for you to kind of treat them as less than. You're only here for those reasons. No, I'm
Right.
here because I have the knowledge, skill, and ability to be here. You shouldn't have hired me if I didn't have those things. I'm here because you can develop me into what
Yes.
you see next. There should be some degree of succession. But if you only brought me here for my skin adaptation, you're going to be woefully disappointed because I may not even identify the same way that the people I'm serving identify.
Yes.
This idea of a forced hand in the area of being inclusive in that way is keeping marginalized people to this day out of the workforce, not just out of the service receiving appropriate services, but the people who are providing those services. Not enough Black psychologists, not enough Latina teachers, not enough, lesbian, gay, transgendered, queer, law enforcement, whatever it is. These marginalized groups are able to make the change, but are often not even considered, lest it be in some kind of administrative, I think of the 60s of this idea of, well, all these people that we used to other, you got to bring them to work. And you had this mass of folks just kind of getting involved in unfortunate language that you'll hear to this day, that you're just the hire because we needed to do that. And it's just like, well, whoa, that's not the answer to what you just said at all. I'm hearing build an appropriate recruitment pool, build a bridge that selects the best and the brightest out of that pool, support that development if need be in order to get what you want, and help and give those folks an opportunity to make some true impact in their communities. That's powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think even before that, because I think people jump to that, what I've seen. And before that, it's fix your foundation. Fix the foundation of your organization, because otherwise it becomes a cycle of people coming in and people leaving, people coming in and people leaving. And I did a lot of research around this. And what I found is that this cycling of BIPOC and special populations, I will say, we talk about LGBTQ2 populations, we talk about Native and Latina populations, the cycling of those individuals mirrors the cycling of the clients. And
Yes.
so you have cycling of Black practitioners in that same cycling in and out of care of Black staff. Same thing with LGBTQ2 populations that are practitioners. In the same, you see the mirroring of those clients. And so we have to recognize that there is a connection, that people are looking for people who look like them and who understand their experiences. And that's not to say every single person 100%, but overall, the research shows that people are looking for people who understand their experience. And so when you as an organization are not cultivating an environment where staff want to be and they leave, you're doing your clients and the communities a disservice, because they're going to follow. And so I think it's important, before you build anything, fix your foundation, fix the organization, fix the cracks in the organization, and create a place where people look forward to coming to and they hate to leave at the end of the day. And not because they have to because of a check, but because they genuinely feel seen, heard, and celebrated, and they love working at this place, and the policies and procedures align with it. Because other than that, I call it planting rose seeds in bad soil. You're just going to keep finding good people, and they're just going to keep cycling out. And so I think that requires us also to disrupt this narrative that I hear often, and it's cute in other places. If you build it, they will come. Not anymore. People are not doing that. I think COVID helped us to reconcile, like, listen, life is short. Like, I'm not about to be miserable anywhere. Like, I prioritize my peace over everything. And so it is not, if you build it, they will come. If you build it and you build it right, and you build it in a way that is responsive to the needs of the human beings who you desire to attract to that organization as employees and as clients, yes, they will come. But if you build it raggedy, No one's coming to that. Like the building's cute and inside is just tore up from the ceiling to the floor with how people are being treated. No one's coming to that. And if they come, they're not staying for long.
And why would they? So that is, again, just such important nuggets. Hopefully this is resonating with the folks who are listening. I do believe that, as I said in our first program, there is a need to kind of go back. That foundational work, I think, doesn't work. And for many people, because that self-analysis is a beast.
Yes.
And folks there's too many good reasons for it. Attrition being one of them, frankly. Well, it didn't happen on my watch, but I don't think I'm going to have to take it to the board. I'm going to have to do a whole bunch of other things. Well-intended leaders may find themselves hamstringed to start doing foundational work again. They're doing two things at this point. If they got an operation, it's moving, and they also got this cultural piece. And it's easy to conflate the two and say, well, I'm doing the change, but I'm doing it through the service. No, that's not what I just heard you say. This is an independent, separate process of organizational assessment. What am I doing? And I would add to it, a huge piece of that is, who were we in that point in time? And have we really changed? Because if all we have is the same service paradigm, then it goes back to that cycling that you're talking about. Yeah, people are cycling in and people are cycling out because the demands of an employee are increasing on the organization, its structure, its culture, and its leaders. It's just where we're at. Our work history is so rich. I'm fascinated by it, right? I study it, and I'm fascinated by it because we have come from these places to where we are today. But if your organization used to be a boarding school, for God's sake,
right?
You've got some work to do if you want to turn it into a community center. And you have to start with that. Okay, let's fix these cracks. What are we going to do? And how do we incorporate voices? I think that's when we start to get to a place of trauma responsiveness, opposed to just a lot of fancy words around trauma-informed this and trauma-informed that. That sounds great when you say it fast, but it's not necessarily happening when you conflate it with, here's our service numbers, the number of people that we work with. That doesn't mean quality, and it doesn't mean service efficacy. It doesn't mean anything happened. So thank you for talking about that. Let's talk a little bit about endgame. I'm going to go back to our first conversation and families that are really just trying to change their traumatic experiences into something different for their children, for themselves, yes, but for the children and for the people that they love, no matter who they are. In my home, that looked like the talk. I can remember saying to my children, right? I learned how to negotiate a traffic stop. I learned how to negotiate, walking down the road and the wrong person who may mistake you for a threat, in air quotes. I learned those things because I had no other choice in the city I grew up in. I teach those things to my children now. In addition to everything else, there's some of the safeguards that we have built into our generational dynamic to keep us all from being anywhere near a system, frankly. Because like I said earlier, I don't believe systems care. People care, but it's a long shot as to which one you're going to get today. And until that consistency changes, there's always going to be this kind of what we need to get better for ourselves. I'm thinking of a family that I worked with, and I think what was peculiar about them is that the relationships were strained, and it required at least one of them to live in out-of-home care. Out-of-home care, for those listening that don't know, just means that they were probably in one of the larger systems. Just for the sake of this conversation, we're going to leave it in child protection. And here you have this brilliant family, just by all other means, the things that we use as these criteria, they should be nowhere near this system. And yet they just happen to be. It was part of their reality. And then one of them has a child. Mm-hmm. And I can remember them saying, this won't be my child. Right? This idea that this is the way I had to grow up. This will not be the way my child grows up. And, you know, you lose track of so many people that you work with over time. But I was so proud to hear those words. I am going to change this. Mm-hmm. How can we support that when families have to navigate such complex systems? There are professionals working in human services for decades. I know I have. And like I said before, they don't know how to negotiate these systems. So how do I have the conviction of this isn't going to happen to me if I have to keep interfacing with these families? We are still seeing families, they come in. In this case, this person said, this is never going to happen to my child. So I know they're doing whatever they need to do to make sure it doesn't. But there's equally as many, if not more, because the numbers keep bearing out that these families are still interfacing with systems that they are usually, it's not just the mom and dad, it's mom, dad, extended family members, and then their children going through the same thing over and over and over again. Isn't that ultimately where the disparity lies? Is that we just have the data just is, like you said in our first program, every time I pull my hand into the jar, I pull out a marble that looks like you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we talked earlier about empowerment and that word, how that can be problematic in so many ways. But I always think about empowering versus empower. And so empower, power, is that what I say is what goes. This is what's best for your life and you do these things. But empowering is like helping a family or an individual identify their strengths. And whether their strengths are things that I agree with or not, I think that everyone has their strengths. And so how can we help the families identify their strengths and use them to help strengthen their decision-making skills? And I think it's that a lot of times people don't know they even have the power to negotiate. So I love when you use that word, when you talk about the conversations that you had with your family about negotiation, because if I'm negotiating something, that means I at least have some power. Mm-hmm. But if I have just said, this is what it's going to be, or whatever they say I'm going to do, it leaves you with no power. And so in my roles in working with clients and families, I've always tried to position myself in creating and working in programs that help empower people, whether it be going to the doctor. And I'll use an example of a program that I worked in where I was specifically, our focus was working with Black and African Americans and Hispanic and Latinos. And we focused on helping them speak up for themselves at the doctor's office, where you are no longer a patient, you are a participant in your healthcare. And even that, like this white coat can't come in and tell you nothing about your life. Like they have advice and they have expertise, but you are the first expert in your own health. If that medication is making you sick, because I've talked to you this month and you, every time we talk, you say it was making you sick. And so when we go to the doctor's office, we're going to tell the doctor that this medication is making you sick. And you're going to tell them, I'm going to be there to support you. And I'm going to remind you if you quote unquote forget, but it's that of like, I'm going to model the way for you. We're going to meet before your doctor's appointment. And we're going to talk about what's going to be said in that doctor's appointment. We're going to make sure that you heard, and we're going to make sure that these things that we've been documenting since your last appointment, that they are said. And so I think it's that is one of the remnants, for lack of a better word, that has happened from being enslaved, from oppression in various forms, and from things that we talked about earlier, such as drapetomania, where that goes against everything that a lot of communities have learned. You don't go in and question the doctor. The doctor tells you this what you do. And it's like, oh no, we're going to disrupt that. The doctor said, take this medicine and it's making you sick, or it's making you lose weight, or it's making your hair fall out. We're going to have a conversation about that. And so it's letting people know that you are worthy, you have power, your voice matters, and what you have to say matters. And this is your life. You are the first expert of that life, and letting them know that they have that power and letting them know that you're going to be there to support them and model the way for them. Because sometimes people don't know because they've never seen it. So now I'm going to come on and walk alongside you, and I'm going to show you and model the way. And I want you to take it and remix it and do you with it. But doing nothing is not acceptable. And so I'm going to hold you accountable to that. And I'm going to support you, and I'm going to protect you and make sure this experience goes right. And in the future, we're going to create a process where now you're going to go to these appointments on your own, but we're going to have check-ins before and after the appointment. And if anything has happened in there, I'm going to call and follow it with the doctor and let them know that that's not okay. Or great job, doctor. This person felt heard and seen during this appointment. And I think a lot of times it's that people have been beat down so much that they are lost. It's like, well, when I tried to do A, the police got called on me and child welfare got involved. And then when I did nothing, I still got in trouble. So what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to do it? And after a while of experiencing so much oppression, people give up because they don't think that the answer is within them anymore. And so I think it's that letting people know you have power and you do have answers within you. You do have strengths. Your community has strengths. Your family has strengths. And how can I help you discover those? How can I add more tools to your toolbox? How can I strengthen the resources and the expertise that you already have?
That's a perfect segue into where I want to go next, because the body of work that you have done now around assimilation is top-notch stuff.
Thank you.
It really is. I'm impressed by it, not because it's supported in the literature, it's supported in the research, but I think it's just the first opportunity to hear somebody say something in a candid way and bring all that information around what assimilation looks like for people that have been oppressed, independent of all of the other, just like you said, the big placard and all this data and all that. Listen, people are hurting.
Yes.
And although those things have merit and they have place, they don't take away hurt. They restate the obvious. And for me, a lot of this goes back to you didn't feel like you had voice because you learned you didn't have voice. Someone told you, you all, whoever you all is today, because that's the way othering works, don't have something vital. I have it, but you don't have it. And you believed that. So you have tribal communities trying to make sense out of that, returning to cultural norms as we speak, finding recovery through traditions. And as you said, reclaiming power, internal, cultural, important pieces so that they can heal from these historic traumas that basically said, you don't have any of that. And in the case of the Black community, although there's divergence even in that community, there's people who just don't agree with what you and I are saying right now. And everybody's entitled to that belief, I guess. But I'm not going to say that assimilation isn't fostering a lot of these health disparities. This idea that if I want to be part of something, I have to tolerate oppression. I have to put up with fear. I have to figure out a way to build a coping mechanism around it. Now, you describe this in workplaces and organizations in rough C's. So the C's is an acronym. Tell us a little bit about navigating these rough C's. Tell me more.
Yeah, so I'm excited to share my first book, Navigating Rough Seas, and the C stands for Soul Eroding Assimilation Forcing Systems. And so when I think about the workplace and think about my experiences, most of my experiences have been more positive than negative. I will say that. And I also have to take a look at this because I think sometimes people like, oh, it's just a job, or, oh, that just happened over there. but I want people to know it's not just a bad job experience, that this does something to your soul, that it's deep, that it's not a bad day at work, that it's bigger than that, that it does something to your soul. And the longer you stay in it, it erodes. It erodes at parts of your humanity. It erodes at parts of your confidence. It erodes at parts of your self-esteem and so many other layers and intersections within our life. And then the assimilation forcing, where I feel like it is a mirage, that assimilation is a mirage of like, if you force someone to assimilate to something, there's an expectation that if I do it, I'll be okay. And most times we're not. It's like, thank you for assimilating to that today. On Friday, we got another assimilation assignment for you. And so it's never ending. And it erodes at you to the point where you just become a part of something floating in the ocean, that you're navigating rough waves and you're just out there, wave after wave, just trying to survive and stay alive. And so, and I talk about it in terms of systems. Again, systems, a collection of human beings making decisions that impact other people's lives. And so that was important for me to tell that story around it being bigger than just having a bad day at work, or being bigger than just go to work and put your head down and get your check, that this is doing something to you emotionally and physically. And if you're not aware, it will be hard to recover from that.
I am not reading this. I am studying it and taking copious notes. And I want to read something from the manuscript here, because I read it and I was like, this just about sums it up. I'm almost done with this after I read this. There is a difference between a workplace culture that is frustrating and flawed, and one that is devaluing, traumatizing, and abusive.
Yes. Yes. And so when we think of assimilation happens in different ways. Assimilation could be, you come to work for company A, B, and C, and on Thursdays we wear our company shirts. And it's like, okay, well, that's a form of assimilation, because I actually had a different outfit that I wanted to wear on Thursday, but Thursdays we wear the company shirt. Versus when you come to this organization, your decisions are not yours anymore. Yes, we hired you as a Black woman to work with these communities because we know you can do a good job. However, you can't say this word. You can't do this thing like this. You can't be who you need to be authentically to do what you were hired to do. And so that takes a toll on you. And it's so interesting because it all goes back to Drapomania. It's like, well, isn't that ridiculous? Like, you hired me to do this thing, but then when I do it, I'm penalized for doing it in a way that I know that helps heal people. And so think about how that shows up in helping services, how it shows up in social services, how it shows up in education, when you hire people who are capable, who have spent a lot of time researching and understanding who they're working with, and they come to implement that only to be told, no, you're not going to do it like that. You need to do it like this. And that's wrong. And if you continue to do it that way, this is what's going to happen to you. And imagine what happens in someone's mind when they experience that. And so that's where the soul eroding comes in. Like, out over time, what does that do to someone's self-esteem? What does it do to their self-worth? What does it do to them health-wise? And we see that as a disproportionality and a disparity in heart disease and diabetes, and people losing their hair, people having to leave early because of health conditions that have become debilitating and that were exacerbated by the workplace. And so I was specific in writing that, knowing, again, just trying to paint how serious this is, that there's an accumulation that happens, like an erosion. It happens over time. It is the cumulative effects of being in this type of environment.
And so you have to navigate this, right? We are all, I think I said in the former program, no matter our traumas, no matter our hurts, no matter our pains, we all go to work, at least to survive in this society. There's a lot of emphasis on being in the workplace. There's a ton of emphasis on being effective and productive in the workplace, and all the research around this trauma informed practice that we keep saying that we're employing as leaders would say that the brain really can't do its job if it's trying to negotiate all fears, because I'm afraid to get punished, and punishment could look like everything from you withdrawing an opportunity for growth from me to you literally embarrassing me in front of 100 other people that are in this meeting right now. All of those things, I've been on the receiving end of a few of them actually, make you start to really think. But I had never considered that maybe this was coercive. And in some cases, to your point, and I think you express it in your writing, I almost expected that something was wrong with me, that this was so nuanced. So I think you can have grotesque oppression up in your face. We, like I said, the Cartwrights of the world and the people who have followed after them up to this day, they're clear. If nothing else, they're clear. But these folks that say things like, around here, we don't know that you're a right fit. Well, what exactly is fit? Right? How do we define fit? And what do I have to do to stay in your good graces so that I continue to look like I fit in? You have to become like me. You have to. And that in and of itself can be very abusive. It can be very oppressive. And it can be a repeat generationally, probably of our own parents who worked really, really hard to give us the privileges to even be in a place where we can work the way we're working with each other right now. Something that 25 years ago, our parents would never be able to do what we're doing right now. So that part is interesting to me. How do you teach folks how to navigate the soul eroding and assimilating, forcing systems?
Yeah. So for me, it is having a plan. And I know that everyone cannot leave the workplace, that people have lives and people need money and they need their check. And so for me, it is that you have to have a plan. Either you're planning to leave or you're planning to stay. But it's not okay not to have any plan. And so what do you need in order to be well? And one of the things that I believe in firmly is community. Surrounding yourself with community, people that can pour into you when your well is dry, people that can pour into you when you're feeling like you just had a really bad day at work. And so it could be in the form of going, for me, is Zumba. I love Zumba. It could be in the form of pickleball. It could be in the form of just laying in your bed and watching funny movies. How do you enter into community with others? And how do you create space for yourself? And so doing both, taking vacation. I find that a lot of times people who are in these roles for various reasons work all the time, and they're working after 5. And it's like, none of this is going to save you from what's happening in the workplace. Understanding, just as we talked about Drapomania, if we can reverse it, and like, these people who are doing this, there's something pathologically wrong in their minds. There's something pathologically wrong in how they're functioning. This is not on you. And so if there's something wrong in their brain, it doesn't matter if you work to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, if you wear your hair differently, if you come with different shoes on, that is something that's deeply wired in them. And so moving to a point where you understand that no matter what you do, that this is going to still occur, I think that's liberating within itself. That go on your vacation, use your vacation time, even if you're not going anywhere, do you. Turn off your work phone. Don't get on your work computer. Do you. And yes, there are going to be things for you to do. I said, and I mentioned in the book, like, work was here before we were born and work will be here after we leave the earth. So even if you finish 5 things on your checklist, 10 more things may pop up. Go prioritize yourself. Take time to take care of yourself. Take time to go to your doctor's appointment, to do your preventive care. Prioritize yourself. And I think the other thing is making sure that we understand the difference between our purpose and our platform. That this job is a platform, that it is one of millions of opportunities, similar to like a marketplace where we go and we sell our expertise and our experiences. in exchange for a check. Sometimes it's a deeply discounted check. But it's a marketplace, let alone, and your purpose is what you were born with. It's what you were brought into this world to do. It's the difference that you were created to make, and understanding there's a difference between the two. This job does not have to be the place that you demonstrate your purpose, that your purpose exists with or without this job, and that lives within you. And even if you have to do it out the trunk of your car, that's your purpose, and you're going to do it well. And so within that, it is a release of knowing that you as a person are not who you are because of your job. Your value is not resting on this job, and it gives you permission to be able to pivot and to turn loose when it's becoming too harmful, when it's becoming too toxic, when it's doing more harm than good, and knowing that you will be fine, that you will find another marketplace, even if it means creating your own. And so it's releasing people from that, and releasing ourselves from just being tied to that, because at a certain point, it becomes the shackles that keep us hostage in harmful environments.
Well, thank you for sharing that and putting it out there. I can imagine hearing the elation and the validation that must come when you talk to people about these things. And at the same time, some of the challenge. This is a huge gauntlet for a leader listening to this right now. So leaders on the program may be like, whoa, I'm getting ready to lose every staff member I have if she keeps saying that. And the answer is no, you're not. If you're sincere in trying to really help this person find that purpose, and you can see their humanity in this, and we change culture, of course we're going to have retention. We're not going to be arguing about attrition if we're not being honest, though, about what we work in, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Oh, yeah. I think that we're at a point in our work history, especially post-pandemic, where, as you said before, Dr. T, folks are saying to themselves, life's important. My health's important. I don't want this to be my children's legacy. I want to do this differently. And I plan on doing this differently with or without this particular group of people that I work with currently. Where do we go from here? What do we do that helps practice? And when I say that open-endedly, it's your perspective on navigating these rough seas. Kind of sticking with our origin is that bad things have happened to people in certain groups, but bad things have happened to people in every group.
Yes.
And I think it's important to lay out that we're all on this recovery journey. We're just doing it really different. The leadership implications are much different today than they were in the top-down hierarchical management system of the 50s and the 60s. The boss ruled, whatever they said went. The idea of a boss period is kind of interesting. You have individuals now using such incredibly collaborative language around leadership in order to get to some of the ideals and some of the things that you've talked about in your writing. But for the folks that are having the struggles now, for the industries like teaching and it seems like almost every day I have a member of my family that comes home, and during our table time, I'm hearing about the next teacher or the next school counselor or the next school nurse or somebody who is no longer doing what they were doing before. And it's concerning. It's concerning because these are talented, willing caregivers, and they're hard to come by. So if I'm a leader, what are some of the takeaways? Where do I go from here? Where do I start?
Yeah. So if you are a leader, everything for me is starts with the foundation, and the foundation is how you show up. And so even in these places where there are rules and things being legislated, it still goes back to how you are showing up. Like, those individuals have to be accountable for the rules and the policies and procedures they're putting together. But I think each of us has a personal responsibility and a triple responsibility as a leader to look at how we're showing up in those spaces. What type of experience are you creating and cultivating for your staff? Is it a positive experience? Is it a negative experience? Like, what are you doing and what can you do better? And I think it goes back to, again, interrupting and disrupting this notion of what it means to be a leader. Being a leader does not mean you crush people and everyone does what you says. Like, that is lame. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe back in the day that worked, but that is so lame. Like, I'm a leader and I gotta force people to follow me and I have to bully them and hold their paychecks as carrots to make me follow. Like, you are lame if you doing that. I just have to put that out there. Like, being a leader that people want to follow by choice, that is the most powerful thing that I have ever seen, that you lead in a way where people look forward to following, where people come into work sick because they don't want to disappoint you, not because they're going to get fired, but because they believe in the vision, that you inspire them, that you model the way to the point where they admire you as a human being, because you see them human to human, heart to heart. And I think that if we can start with that as the foundation, we can change the world. We can change the workplace. We can change our communities for the better. But it starts with that. It starts with sitting with yourself and looking at the good, the bad, the ugly, and the uncomfortable. Because that's you. Like, if you uncomfortable sitting with yourself, what you think everyone else around you feel? Like, it's like, if you can't even sit with yourself because you just so uncomfortable, everyone else is like on fire because you are a force to be reckoned with, and not in a good way. And so it's that, like, the only way that you can be better is that you sit with yourself and that you take time to deal with the things that are uncomfortable. Not because we take pleasure in people being uncomfortable, but we know that's the only way to move forward. When we talk about access, the first access starts with you. Accessing those uncomfortable things and doing something about it. Don't double down on it. Do something different. Do something about it. And you're not going to get it right the first time. You might even get it right the 5th or the 10th time, but at least you're taking time to address it. You see it as a problem and you are striving to do better. We're not going to have a pity party for you. We're not going to feel sorry for you. Do better. Do better, because other people are dependent on it. Other people's lives are in the balance. Other people's well-being are in the balance. And so do yourself a favor by sitting with yourself in this discomfort and making change that's going to create a ripple effect to your staff, to people around you, to people that you live with, to the communities that you serve, and do for the better.
I could do this all afternoon. This has been such a powerful, powerful conversation. And I love this idea. Leaders have followers. Anybody I supervised, anyone I was trying to develop into the next iteration of themselves, we had to be clear. Leaders have followers. If you don't have followers, what are you leading? So yes, and double yes. Thank you so much for bringing that candid approach to this. On Talking Beyond Trauma, we try to remove all of the other stuff. There's plenty of it in the world. We can get that all day long. We talked about the things that are important, I think, today. But I hope we've also encouraged people to come up with a plan, an individual plan of leadership. If you're a leader listening to this, there's no shame and blame. There's a challenge. It's on the floor waiting for you. You could pick it up or you could leave it there because you have the power to do both. But the people who have done great work had to do the heavy work and they had to do the hard work. And you helped us conceptualize that. All the best on rough seas. I'm sure we're going to hear more about these rough seas because they are out there. They are hard to negotiate and people do need this kind of information at a time where they're just feeling alone and dejected and out of sorts, and mostly BIPOC and BIPOC women, I will add.
Yes.
I'm not going to try to speak to that piece of it, but I'm encouraged that you put a document out there, not just for folks going through it, but for all individuals. As I read through this has application in any number of venues, as long as someone's willing to take the chance and the challenge. Dr. Tanisha Freeman Foster, thank you so much for coming and bringing it today, bringing it real, and thanking you so much for your continued dedication to the field.
Absolutely. And thank you for this opportunity. And it's been a pleasure to be here with you in this space. You know, we get together and we talk for hours on, I think we've changed the world like 50 times over now. So
sure
thank
have.
you for that. And so if people are interested in purchasing the book, they can go to our website, navigatingroughseas.com. The book is also available on Amazon in print, ebook, and Audible version. And on the website, we have a free book club. So if people are interested in taking action, we have book clubs from people from all walks of life. So if you're interested in taking action and not just talking, we are here for it, to have conversations and to put together real strategies that make a difference in the world, that make a difference in the workplace. So that's where I can be found.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I think that's a great resource. It's probably the greatest resource I'm going to leave you all with today. I thank you again for being part of this conversation. There's a lot to be done, but it's encouraging to know that you and people like you are willing to take on this challenge. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to our production of Talking Beyond Trauma, which is made available by the South Southwest Mental Health Technology Transfer Center, or MHTTC, through a cooperative agreement funded by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA. The MHTTC's primary goal is to provide free training, share best practices, and offer ongoing support and consultation to professionals serving individuals with mental health challenges. We would like to extend our gratitude to our guest, Dr. Tanisha Freeman Foster, and our host, Mordecai Dixon, for their contributions to this discussion. Lastly, we would like to acknowledge the hard work of our dedicated team, without whom this project would not have been possible. Season 4 was produced by the communications team here at the Texas Institute for Excellence in Mental Health. It was recorded and edited by Mckenzie Bentley. Our theme music is by Scooter Holiday. The opinions expressed in this presentation are the views of our speakers and do not reflect the official position of the Department of Health and Human Services or SAMHSA. If you'd like more information on this and other MHTTC products in the South Southwest region, you can find a link in the episode description. This session was pre-recorded. We appreciate your participation and hope the discussion helped your journey. Be well.